Hi, my name is Dr. Petra Swissler, and today we are roasting a resume. So, this particular one comes from Bubba Gump, and Bubba Gump says that they want to showcase their experience, right? So, I know that Bubba Gump is a rising senior, so I imagine this is mostly targeted at a job fair. That's the way I'm going to be approaching it here. So immediately looking at it, just you have some empty space here. Best way to really address that is to, just add a bit more space between things, but that's fine. Um, Starting out, education, right? 340. Um, if there's a different way of presenting yourself that might, bump that up significantly, right? I'm not talking 340 to 345. But if you can bump that up to a 3.6 by only considering major classes, right, that might be worth putting in there. But otherwise, it's probably fine depending on the job you're looking for, right? And I happen to know that this is for a technological institute, so you're looking primarily for engineering jobs. Newark College of Engineering, right? The thing you always have to ask is this something that an employer will care about? You know, uh, maybe not. For somewhere like NYU, where you have just an absolutely massive student population, and the colleges are very separate. It might make sense to do that. Our employer is going to care that it's the Newark College of Engineering versus the Yingwu College of Computing. Might be wrong with the name there, but I don't think they're going to really care. They're going to care about you know what college and what major and what's your GPA. Missing a year here. Professional experience, right? So you're putting this McNair fellowship here. When I hear professional experience, I expect to see an internship, right? To me, professional experience means that you have been employed by someone in the field that you're interested in, roughly, or rather in the same function. Um, I do know that you worked very hard in this McNair Fellowship program. Is that significantly different than projects? You know, I know that these are the same thing. Uh, so the big thing is really to be as transparent with these resumes as possible, and I think combining them would make things a bit better. I certainly see that it might be a bit difficult to fill space if you don't separate them, right? But the I think it might be better to combine these. Just looking through it, researcher, develop mechanisms, right? That a lot of this is not going to mean that much to someone who doesn't know about the project. Uh, some hanging words here, right? I would see if you can combine that into a single kind of single line, um, right? And extensive research, right? What does that really mean? Using these descriptive words can be a double-edged sword. In certain circumstances, these words can make things stronger, but just as easily, if someone is looking for bullshit, right? The way that you hide bullshit is with flowery language, right? And so, everyone who's looked at resumes a lot, It becomes very evident when someone is trying to cover stuff up. I'm not saying that you're trying to cover stuff up, but just be careful with, using these, call them higher end words, right? You know, conducted extensive research versus conducted research, right? It's shorter, simpler, uh, and I just think it's better to, leave stuff and let stuff speak for itself. These bolts are fine. Right, so 80/20, they know that they're just aluminum extrusion honeycomb panels. Again, this is just pet peeve, but every time SolidWorks is capitalized, it just SolidWorks is the package that yells. Employed manufacturing techniques. Yeah, it's probably fine. Yeah, I mean, I do think some of this is overstated, right? The One of the things you have to keep in mind is, when you go to that interview, right? And I've gotten a few comments on why why are you harping on a lot of these minor issues? And there's really two reasons. One, it always pays to put your best foot forward. But the second thing is that when you go to an interview, right, the people interviewing you are going to sit down, and what are they going to have in their hand? They're going to have your resume, right? That is the only thing they know about you. Maybe they've looked at it for 1 minute before sitting down with you. Maybe it's the first time they're looking at it. And so, just make sure that every time you have a bullet on here, right, that is a question that you are inviting them to ask. So, if for instance, the person asks, okay, oh, tell me a bit about testing the driving components, right? Um, if all you can say is, oh, I plugged it into a power source and I saw it move, uh, that's going to make you seem weaker than if you kind of combined a few of these things. And because essentially you should be able to talk, uh, at least a few sentences, uh, and have a short discussion on each of these bullet points. Lyman filament extruder. Collaborated in, right? Collaboration. What does that mean, right? One thing that has been brought up in interviews with me is, when I say I was on this team, you know, and we did X Y Z, the person immediately asked, okay, so that's what the team did. What did you do? Right. And fortunately for me, I had very good description of that. But the what you have here should not be what your team did. It should be what you did specifically. Having a bit about the team, maybe as like one of these bullet points, but just there. Employed manufacturing techniques. Again, that phrase, I don't love it. Um, Trotec speedy laser cutting. I don't know what that is. Um, if that's just the brand name of a laser cutter, that's not worth having, right? I mean, there are many brands, and it doesn't matter which one you're using. I mean, the front end might be a bit different, but it's not going to make or break your employability if you just say laser cutting. Um, Led the assembly process of not only the rolling system but also components. Um, get rid of the not only, right? When you say use phrases like that, you are trying to impress them with your language, not with what you did, right? It is stronger to just say, led the assembly of the rolling system as well as the filament guider and spooling system, right? Shortens it down, right, which makes it easier for these people to read it as they're sitting down with you for the interview. But it also it's less pretentious, right? Wrote weekly updates. Yeah, that's fine. Skills, I really would recommend moving this upward to there. Um, Laser cutter, I think, is better. I mean, you're not going to say I use the Ultimaker 3 Plus, right? 3D printing. Onshape, Creo, Inventor, Fusion 360. I would, when you have a lot of softwares like this, it might be worth indicating which ones you're strongest on, right? You know, saying that you're familiar, just as an example, saying you're familiar with Inventor Fusion 360, right, where you're really much stronger in SolidWorks and Onshape. Um, if they sit you down, I've had it where they've sat me down and say, okay, here's something, model it, right? If you say that you are, you're giving equal weight here. If you say, if I'm good at Fusion 360 and you're really better at SolidWorks, it's best to be potentially upfront with that. Just kind of thinking out loud. Programming languages, well, you have one. Yeah, I think I just simplify that. MATLAB. Yeah, it's probably good to have there. Just be aware that MATLAB it really depends on what industry you're in. MATLAB is used a lot in academia. It's probably better to pursue something like Python or something like that for industry, or C++ for embedded systems. Uh, no, I mean, you know, if you say you know Microsoft Office, everyone assumes these three things, right? If you know Microsoft Project, that's a whole different ballgame. But um, you know, just saying I know Microsoft Office and Google Docs, right? Google Office. I think that would be sufficient, and then I really would recommend combining those. Yeah. Trying to think. Just be because with that, I don't want to say that it seems like it'd be lacking a bit. You might want to add some soft skills, right? Like, uh, and I'm not necessarily saying I'm good at speaking, right? But just saying like, you know, one of my skills is design. One of my skills is drafting, right? Um, because that's really what you'd be hired to do. Extracurriculars, um, secretary. Attending general body meetings as a bullet point. I don't think that really matters there. Um, you've kind of copied that. Provided weekly progress reports. I mean, I'm seeing weekly progress reports 3 times, right? Uh, that seems like a lot, right? The repetition there seems like a lot. Um, so after going through it, the major stuff really is kind of consolidating a lot of this, right? I mean, the Swarm robotic system, this research experience, right? I You're left with a resume that's not that long. There's a few things you have going for you. Also, just you know, use justified alignment here. Um, there's a few things that you can easily do, right? I think this seems like half-inch margin. Increase that to an inch. You can probably add a section for like relevant coursework. That would kind of fill it out. If you have a picture of the projects that you've done, right, inserting those will potentially be good, right? You need to be careful with this because it needs to be a very good image that really encapsulates what you did. But that can fill in a bit more space. Because I'm not going to say that this resume is necessarily lacking, because you're not going to have a huge amount of experience coming out of college. But I do think that it'll end up being shorter than a page, which is, you really want to have it be around a page. Not for any good reason, but just because that's what people expect. So that is that is my input. In short, combine some stuff, maybe add some coursework. But yes, that is my roast. If you are interested in me taking a look at your resume, there is some instructions in the description. I can't guarantee that I will get to everyone just because I've been getting a lot of requests. But yeah, this has been Resume Roast.